Welcome to the Old Miner's Meanderings, a podcast about cooking, outdoor cooking. We'll talk about various forms of grilling, barbecue, smoking, and give some tips on fine indoor cooking as well. You can find the text version of these podcasts at minersmix.wordpress.com. These casts are brought to you by the folks at Miners Mix, makers of fine gourmet barbecue rubs and seasonings. If it didn't exist in 1850, it ain't in there. Feel free to visit us at minersmix.com or on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Tumblr. You can find these podcasts on the Miners Mix YouTube channel, on most podcast outlets, or at anchor.fm/minersmix. And you can find our products on Amazon or on our website. Now, gather around to hear prime rib, because the West was not one with ham. Two caveats before we begin our tale. First, since this piece was first published, we've developed the Miners Mix Prime Rib and Roast Rub, and it's now available. We love that rub, but we like this method as well. Second, most of our cooking happens outside. This yarn happens to be about one of our forays into the kitchen. All that said, here we go. Here in the far Wild West, placer and hard rock gold mining remnants are strewn literally everywhere. Of course, one must recognize that all those piles of dirt and gravel alongside the stream beds are in fact placer tailings, and all those fist-sized and smaller chunks of quartz laying all over the place are actually gold ore blasted out of some hard rock mine somewhere nearby. Back in the day, there were mines literally right in the town of Mariposa, and the Princeton mine, located just outside town, was at various times the largest gold producer in the state. Today there remain tunnels under parts of the town that are only accessible via the basements of some of the historic old buildings. This is a place that is literally where the Old West lived and breathed. Yet, strangely, it's also the only town and county to be named after a fragile insect, Mariposa, the butterfly. California history lives in this mother-lode region, and despite the zeal that various politically correct federal government agencies pursue their agenda of burying and covering it up, this heritage, their efforts cannot erase it. That being said, and with the holidays now in the past, it's time for some real food. This area, the West, was not one on turkey and ham. Beef. It's what's for dinner. Prime rib number 1. Our partner in blog writing crime recently did a prime rib in the oven coated with Miners Mix XXX garlic rub blended with an equal amount of cracked black pepper. Together, over quite a bit of nice wine, we all discovered that the blend produces an absolutely superb crust for prime rib. Later, sitting around in the living room drinking still more wine, we realized way too late that we'd been remiss in our photographic duties. That poor prime rib had perished undocumented. Well, shucks. Looks like we're going to have to do it all over again just so we can shoot some pictures. A perfect excuse to have another wonderful meal. Prime rib number 2. The local market happened to have small end rib roast on sale, so a 2-rib smallish roast was purchased to fulfill its prime rib destiny. Life, intruding into the best laid plans, often results in things unforeseen. On the afternoon we'd planned to cook our prime rib, things became quite hectic, and we failed to give the wonderful piece of beef the attention it deserved. Although we did rub it with Miners Mix XXX garlic and pepper, and it came out just as wonderful as prime rib number 1 did, the photos just failed to do it justice, and were not up to our usual high standards for this blog. Actually, the photos ended up looking like the remains of a caveman feast, which it was, but they were just not suitable for women and children. Enter prime rib number 3. Another excuse for a great meal, and we're down with that. Fortunately, the local market still had rib roast on sale, so another great piece of marbled beef goodness was promptly procured with the intention of doing things completely right this time. Prime rib number 3 was lightly coated in olive oil, and then covered with Miners Mix XXX garlic rub and an equal amount of cracked black pepper. The rubbed roast was tucked into a large plastic bag with the intention of roasting the next day. However, life intruded again for the next 2 days, so prime rib number 3 ended up sleeping in the fridge for 3 days, all covered in garlicky olive oil goodness, because fat is flavor, and olive oil, being fat, can diffuse into meat fat. So we often use olive oil in conjunction with the rubs. When you don't have a lot of time to let rub meat sit, olive oil seems to greatly speed up the process of getting the rub flavor into the meat. Our roasting procedure? At least 24 hours before cooking, lovingly caress the roast with olive oil and season with equal parts of Miner's Mix XXX garlic and 1 part freshly cracked pepper. Seal the rubbed roast in a large Ziploc bag and stash in the refrigerator overnight or longer, up to 3 or 4 days. At least 1 hour before cooking, let the meat come to room temperature and then preheat the oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Put the roast in a shallow roasting pan using the ribs as a natural rack. Roast uncovered at 450 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes. Then reduce the temperature to 325 and continue to roast for about 15 minutes per pound of meat until it reaches the correct internal temperature. For those that don't know, that's 115 degrees for rare, 120 to 130 for medium, and 140 to 150 for well done. Normal finish temperatures are about 10 degrees higher than these because the meat will continue to cook as it rests. Once the meat reaches the correct temperature, remove it from the oven and cover with attentive foil and let it rest for 20 minutes. The higher initial heat causes the rub to form a crust which tastes simply amazing. This is about the best prime rib any of us have ever eaten. Highly recommended. We've also used this same rub recipe, XXX garlic rub and cracked black pepper, on rolled sirloin roast cooked on a rotisserie on an electric grill, and this too came out amazingly good. The combination of rub and cracked pepper is truly one of the best non-grill uses we've found for Miner's Mix. Certainly it's up there in the top 5. Thanks for joining us today.